Okay, so today we're diving into the Mahabharata, but we're not trying to tackle the whole thing at once. No way. We're zeroing in on one single promise, a promise so powerful it became the literal foundation of the entire epic. This is the story of how one son's incredible love for his father ended up changing the fate of an entire kingdom. It's a wild ride. And when I say powerful, I'm really not kidding. Just look at this quote. A promise so fierce that it shook the heavens. I mean, that's not just some poetic language. The story treats this vow like a cosmic event, a moment that literally made the gods sit up and take notice. And believe me, that intensity, it sets the tone for everything. And I mean everything that comes next.
So let's back up a bit. How do we even get to a promise that shakes the heavens? Well, like so many epic tales, it all kicks off by a river. It's a story about a king's love, and let's call it a divine bargain.
So you have this king, right? King Shantanu of Hastinapur. And one day he's walking by the river and he sees this woman who is just breathtaking, like not even humanly beautiful. And that's because, well, she isn't. It's Ganga, the river goddess in human form. Shantanu is just completely floored, absolutely consumed by love at first sight, and he asks her to be his queen right then and there. But Ganga, she has a condition, and it is a huge one. She says, sure, I'll be your queen, but you can never, ever question anything I do. The moment you do, I'm gone forever. I mean, that's a massive red flag, right? But Shantanu is so in love, he just says yes, without even thinking. And that promise, that first vow, it's going to set the stage for some serious tragedy. And the fallout from that promise is, well, it's horrifying. They have a son, and what does Ganga do? She takes the baby to the river and drowns him. And Shantanu, he can't say a word. He's bound by his promise. Then it happens again and again. For 7 years. 7 sons born and then immediately killed by their own mother. Can you even imagine? He's living in this absolute nightmare. Finally, the 8th son is born, and he just can't take it anymore. He snaps. He breaks his vow and screams at her, "Stop." And just like that, everything changes. Ganga reveals who she really is, a goddess. She explains that their sons were actually cursed celestial beings called the Vasus, and by drowning them, she was setting them free. All of them. Except this 8th one. This son, named Devavrata, he's the one who has to live out the full curse on Earth. But Shantanu broke the vow, so Ganga has to leave him. She hands the baby to the king and just disappears, leaving him completely heartbroken. All right, so years go by. And all of this tragic backstory, it's all just the setup for the real vow, the big one. A promise so immense, it's not just going to reshape one man's destiny, it's going to reshape the destiny of the entire kingdom. So this is the question, right? What on earth could make the most perfect prince imaginable give up everything? Because that's what Devavrata is. He grows up to be the total package. The best warrior, the smartest scholar, the perfect heir, everyone loves him. But he notices his dad, King Shantanu, is just miserable. He's walking around in this deep, sad funk. And the reason? Yep, the king has fallen in love again, this time with a woman named Satyavati, who's the daughter of a fisherman. And here's the catch. Satyavati's father, Dasharach, is no fool. He tells the king, look, you can marry my daughter, but on one condition. Her son has to be the next king. Not your perfect son, Devavrata, my grandson. Now, this is an impossible demand. There's no way Shantanu can just disinherit Devavrata. So he can't have the woman he loves, and he just falls into this deep despair. Well, Devavrata eventually figures out what's making his dad so sad. And without even a moment's hesitation, he goes straight to Satyavati's father himself. For his dad's happiness, he makes a staggering promise. He says, I renounce my claim to the throne. Forever. Just like that. An incredible sacrifice. But it's still not enough. See, Dasharaj is clever. He says, okay, that's great, but what about your kids? What if your sons grow up and decide they want the throne? It's a valid point, and this is the moment. This is where Devavrata takes things to a whole other level. He makes a second vow, one so extreme it's almost unthinkable. He swears he will never marry. He will remain celibate for his entire life. He's not just giving up the throne for himself, he's erasing his entire future lineage to secure his father's happiness. And at that moment, as he makes this terrible, awesome vow, the gods themselves react. The stories say flowers rained down from the heavens, and celestial voices gave him a new name, Bhishma. It means he of the terrible vow. In that instant, Prince Devavrata ceased to exist. In his place stood Bhishma, a living, breathing legend defined by his promise. So now we get to the consequences. This vow isn't just a moment in time. It becomes the single defining principle of his entire, very long life. He becomes the ultimate paradox, the guardian of a throne he can never claim, and the protector of a family line he can never have for himself. And this really breaks it down, doesn't it? Look at the trade-off. He was meant to be the king, the center of the story. Instead, he becomes the lifelong guardian, the regent. He was supposed to be a husband and a father, to have his own family. Instead, he becomes the celibate grandsire, the great uncle to generations of princes who get to live the life he gave up. And man, what a life of duty it was. He was basically the acting king in everything but name. He protected the kingdom, he raised his 2 half-brothers as if they were his own sons. He even went out and found wives for them to continue the bloodline. He was so committed to his duty that he even ended up fighting his own revered teacher, Parashurama, to uphold a promise. His entire existence became about dharma, about duty, and pushing aside any personal desire. But here's the thing about a vow like that. There's always a price to pay. And for Bhishma, the final bill for his promise came due on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. This is the tragic conclusion, the great war that sits at the very heart of the Mahabharata. And this quote from Lord Krishna just says it all. Bhishma, you are the only one who could have stopped this war, but your vow bound you. This is the absolute core tragedy of his life. The vow he took to protect the throne forced him to serve kings who were making terrible decisions. It tied his hands, preventing him from stopping a catastrophic civil war that ended up destroying the very dynasty he had sacrificed everything to protect. And the irony just gets deeper, right down to the way he dies. See, years earlier, in the course of his duties, he wronged a princess named Amba. Her life was ruined. She swore revenge and was eventually reborn as a male warrior, Shikhandi. Now, Bhishma had a personal code. He would never fight a woman or someone who had been a woman. So when he faces Shikhandi on the battlefield, he lowers his weapons. And that gives his own grandnephews the opening they need to riddle his body with arrows. The consequences of his duty literally came back to become the cause of his death. So what's the takeaway from all this? I mean, it's a huge story, but it boils down to some pretty powerful ideas. It shows us how love can lead to the most extreme sacrifices, how a promise you make can literally become who you are. And it explores this idea that true strength might lie in choosing duty over your own desires. But maybe most importantly, it's a stark reminder that a single choice can create echoes that last for generations. And all of that brings us to this one final, really tough question. What was Bhishma's true duty? Was it to the words of the vow he swore all those years ago? Or was it to the spirit of that vow, to the actual well-being of the kingdom he swore to protect? When the letter of the law conflicts with the right thing to do, what do you choose? It's a deep question about the nature of right and wrong, and honestly, it's why this ancient story still hits so hard today.